Hello there, my name is Marshall Davis and today I am going to be showing you, hopefully, how to damp down or reduce your phobia of moths. Why moths? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but firstly we need to figure out what is a phobia. Well, a phobia is basically like a fear that's really heightened. So the easiest way to define them is, do you walk into a room and go, there's a moth in here, I need to get the hell out of here? Well, that's probably a phobia. And it's about this point you've probably realised as well that moth is pretty interchangeable with just about any other thing you can think of, whether it be spiders, snakes, heights, going outside, you name it. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks today and a little bit of a scientific method to reducing and chilling out that phobia and hopefully make you not want to run out of the room, because sometimes they can be pretty debilitating. Say, for example, you're going to rent a new apartment or a unit and you walk in on the inspection day and there's a moth in the corner. Now, is your phobia so bad that you wouldn't rent that place because there's a chance you might see moths more often than you're happy with? Well, probably need to do something about that. And that's the point. Why moths? Well, just because it's a moth and it might seem a little bit unscary to just about everybody else when everybody's scared of things that can actually hurt you, like a snake or a spider or heights, well, that doesn't mean it's any less of a debilitating fear for you. If it's affecting your life, it's just as relevant a fear as anything else that's a little bit more normal, much as I don't like that word. Okay, so how do we do it? Let's get into it then. First things first, what you need to do is have a think about what is the worst possible thing you can think of to do with this phobia. So let's say, for example, with the moth, you might think the worst possible catastrophic thing might be the moth flying into your face when you get into the room with it. Now, what's it going to do to you? Is it going to bite you? Is it going to just be on you and that's enough? Whatever it happens to be, just write that down. And then what you need to do is you need to come up with a fear hierarchy or a fear ladder. Heck, it could be just about anything. You could have a fear ladder, like this, for example. You could have a fear staircase or a fear mountain, in fact. I can't draw, so I prefer to do things a little bit more exciting and have a fear whiteboard ladder, which is looking a little bit like this. These are pretty cool. If you don't want to go to this extent, then I'm going to show you on the fear staircase, but what you can do is you can get some magnetic sheets, write down on these little pieces of sheet, magnetic sheet, you write down from the lowest to the highest and choose about 12 at a minimum situations regarding a moth that you would prefer not to be in. So let's say down the bottom here, we've got, look at a drawing of a spider. Well, spider, moth, same thing. That might be down the bottom. You slap that on your whiteboard and you work your way from the bottom to the top. And we're going to get into that a little bit in a second. But what you want to do, if you want to use the fear staircase, you can do the same thing. You can start down the bottom and you write down the situation here and then work your way up the staircase. What you're doing is you're putting things that don't worry you too much down the bottom. So say, for example, looking at the drawing, then the next one might be look at a photo. Next one might be look at a video, all the way up to usually holding the animal or being on top of a skyscraper, whatever your phobia happens to be. But we're going to stick with moths. Holding a moth in a container. And you're scoring them with a score from 5 to 100. So if the situation is something you would score as a 0, then don't worry about putting it on the list. But if it's something that's a 5, that's probably down the bottom. And use intervals of 5. Essentially, it's what your doctor might ask you when you go in and you've broken your leg. And they say, what is your subjective unit of discomfort, I guess? What is your rating of pain from a scale of 0 to 10? It's the same sort of thing, just intervals of 5. Anyway, what you're doing is you're putting them on here and you want to go from 5 to 100 and hopefully not have too many big steps in between. So you don't want to go from, say, a 20 to a 50, for example. Try and go from 20 to 30 or 30 to 55, something like that. Maybe not even that high. Then what you're doing is you start from the bottom and you work your way up. So we start with look at a drawing of a spider or a moth in this particular case. What you do is you get a picture of a moth and you look at that picture, or the drawing, photo, video, and you look at it for 6 to 7 minutes minimum. Don't go 5. It's tempting, but don't. Try and look at it uninterrupted for 6 to 7 minutes. And what you've got to try and do is focus on it. Don't close your eyes. Focus on that picture or that video for 6 to 7 minutes. And while you're doing it, give yourself a pat on the back. You've got that far. I mean, that's a good start. But what you're actually trying to do is find at least 2 or 3 things in that photo or that video that maybe previously really disgusted you, but try and find something nice about it. And keep reminding yourself that what you're looking at right then and there, it's not really going to hurt you, is it? Because it's a drawing, it's a photo, it's a video. Once you get to 7 minutes, set yourself a timer on your phone or your watch. And once you get to 7 minutes, and trust me, you'll get to 7 minutes before you actually realize it, give yourself a massive pat on the back. Give yourself a yes, I did it, I made it. Awesome. And if you like, cross it off the ladder, cross it off your staircase, give a big cross because you've made it to that point. And then you go to the next step, which might be a little bit higher up in the hierarchy or your fear ladder. And you keep going through those steps. Now, don't worry, it will get to a point where you will be really uncomfortable at one stage. It might be when you get right up to the top and you're holding on to a container with a moth in it. But it might even be when you're looking at a drawing. That might be a bit much for you right at the start. Don't give up. Just keep persisting with it. And if you do feel super uncomfortable, just stop for a sec. Give yourself a big deep breath in and out. But don't close your eyes and don't try and do relaxation exercises because it'll just distract you from looking at what it is. So remember, it's just about thinking a couple of good, positive things about what you're looking at and reminding yourself that it's not going to hurt you if it's just a photo and it's just a drawing. You're in control of this situation. And once you get to the 7 minute mark, again, smack on the back. You did it. You are awesome. Good on you. The other thing I would mention is if you're going to do this by yourself, that's okay, good on you, but it will probably get pretty tricky when you get up to the higher levels and you need to actually catch a moth to use in those other situations. So up the top level, you might have a moth in a room, a moth a little bit closer to you in the room, a moth on the wall in a container, for example, a moth on the desk in front of you, and then you holding onto it. This is kind of where you need someone else to help you. You can do it yourself, but I would really strongly recommend you find a friend or a family member that isn't afraid of moths to go and grab one for you. But don't surprise yourself. Don't let them have the moth in there before you're not ready. Okay? Take your time with it. If you're not at the point where you want to have a real moth in the room, don't do it then. Just keep working your way up through the list. The other thing you can do is get some fake moths. Trust me, they do exist. You can search them up. They're like little fake spiders, like this. And you can use them. They're just plastic, these little fellas. Sorry if you're afraid of spiders, by the way. And you can use them somewhere in the middle. Have them on your hands. What you're trying to do is gradually expose yourself to ever so slightly higher levels of the fear. And if you can do that, once you get up to the top, you'll realize that it's actually not that bad. What we're definitely not trying to do, though, is get you to 0. That's not what this is about. It's about trying to just damp it down and chill it out just a little bit. So see how you go. And if you've got any extra questions, chuck them in the comments below, and I'll see if I can help you out with them. Thanks, and good luck.